Yeah, finally, that last, that first of June. From there, I know she keeps saying,
maybe that's been some time ago.
Okay.
I think so.
Shut your phone off.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank everybody for coming to our meeting this afternoon. Let me shut my phone off or silence it. We'll get things started here. First thing on the agenda is the minutes from last month. Did everybody have a chance to look them over? And if so, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
We have a motion from Karen to accept the minutes. Second?
Second.
Kelly? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Wasn't here last.
You weren't here, okay, so.
Are you abstaining?
Pardon?
Are you abstaining then?
Yeah. Garrett abstained, he wasn't at the
Yes.
last meeting. Okay, next thing on the agenda is the county surveyor. It's approval for additional appropriations for what, 50,000, yes.
This is for continuing the efforts at corner marker perpetuation, the 2022 version.
Yep, this is just for the, we've already advertised, so this will be for approval. As soon as Karen signs, again, this is for approval for additional appropriations in the amount of $50,000 for the surveyors, perpetuation fund. Do I have a motion? Motion from Karen or Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Jerry. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is County Sheriff, approval for additional appropriations.
I approached you last month and was asking for my co-pays that we received back to county to be placed back in my medical and hospital fund in the jail. Total $1,983.26.
I make a motion.
Motion by Jerry. Second. Second by Kelly. All in favor, please signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
All yours, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that next?
You my general drain man?
Yes.
Okay.
The next two items are essentially the same item.
Yeah.
So, yes, we did approach you last month, and you did advertise for the $71,786 money to go back to the general ditch maintenance fund, and that's the only way that we can put money into that fund is from county council funds. There's no place else to get that, so I guess that's our request, so we clear up that state board of accounts audit and move on. So if you got questions, I'd try and answer them.
This is for approval. We advertised last month.
Greg, if I could interrupt for a moment, because their resolution 2022-02, the approval of that serves as the approval of the appropriation. If we could consider that at the same time and have a motion on that, it would help keep my record straight.
So we just need one motion to.
I think
to
one
clear
motion
that.
would be appropriate.
Do you have the resolution?
It's right here, and it's something I thought I had circulated it to everyone.
But I just didn't know if we needed to sign it now.
Once it's approved, I will circulate it,
Okay.
yes.
And that number again was
2022-02.
Any questions or anything on this, folks?
What's kind of the steps on this, Rick, once you get that satisfied and so forth, this board, then what do you do?
Well, there won't be any, that will clear the audit.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about as far as the office there? We'll notify the state board of accounts that we've done that, we've transferred that money.
Yeah.
And that'll clean up the audit report, and that'll be the end of it. There won't be anything else to do about it.
And then will there be something to take care of that, our portion of the ditch down the road? If there's
The
maintenance
drainage
issues
board,
on it then?
the drainage board would be free.
That'll be a long process with the drain board. We're probably looking at 2 years before we get everything done. But yeah, at that point in time, when this is all satisfied, first thing we'll do is we'll have a surveyor notify the other counties that that is satisfied, and then try and start getting the board established. And then we'll go into the process of advertising the levy and all those public hearings that have to be done. And
Is it in bad shape?
oh yeah, it's all.
Needs a lot of work.
I've got some pictures if you'd like to see them. It's,
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
And it just needs to be cleaned out. And
Logs
that's
and stuff, or beavers, or?
both. And just
all the
brush,
above.
overgrown, yeah. It needs to be straightened up, and it's not only affecting the county roads, it's affecting the farmers that use those fields that drain into it.
Big time.
Any
Some
of
of
those
those
farmers,
farmers, do they have, floods?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it floods the county road up there.
Yeah, north of Lone Tree up in
Yes.
there. It's
Yeah, it doesn't take much of a rain anymore to flood it.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Any other questions or comments? If none, I'd entertain a motion for the advertisement and to pass the resolution 2022-02.
Did we not already advertise, because I got confused, did we not already advertise for this?
Yes, we advertised last month for it.
Okay.
This is final approval by adoption of resolution 2022-02.
Okay.
And that would be the preferred language of the motion.
I'll
And
make a
that money's
motion.
coming from the rainy day fund or general fund?
Rainy day.
I would suggest for me that it is.
I have a motion from Jerry, as stated by Marvin, right?
Stated as Marvin. Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who was that? Second by Karen. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
Thank you, ladies and ladies.
Yes. Greg, I'll pay
both of them, the advertising and the.
Yes.
Additional appropriation. We have two things we have to sign there.
Yeah, the appropriation keeps Matt's records straight, keeps us straight with SBOA. The resolution keeps my records straight and also helps with the SBOA.
Okay, next on the agenda is the lit EMS discussion.
Okay, well, I'll bring this up. Whenever I was on the Indiana County Councils Association, their legislative committee, this was something that was discussed up at the State House, and so there's a new local income tax that can be applied that will directly help the counties that pay to have an ambulance service running. And I don't have the exact code with me, I forgot it. Marvin has it. But, so Ben Rager put some proposals together. The most that we can do is 0.2%. That is the most that we could to put into place for the local income tax. If we go with the least amount that we can go, I believe Ben's projections would make it so that the ambulance service would be like right out of the red. We wouldn't have any additional income, but it would cover that $300,000 shortfall that we have almost every year with the ambulance. So anyway, I was just bringing this before the council so we could discuss it and see, just to get some discussion going and see what we want to do with this. With it being a local income tax, you know, it's more evenly distributed among the people in the county rather than just property tax owners. So we have, if we institute this, it would be in effect for 25 years, and there's different amounts we can go to, but 0.2% is the most that we can do. Depending on if we decide to do this, it would be anywhere from most people maybe having $2 a month taken out of their paycheck up to $8 a month out of their paychecks. And so part of the reason why I think we should have the discussion and look into this is so that not only are we keeping the ambulance in black, we can also look at hopefully maybe paying the ambulance workers a little bit more so that we can retain people here in the county versus training people and then they go off to other counties. So that's the long-term goal, is what I'm looking at with this. There were some figures. I sent you an email. I forwarded things, but I mean, if you want to look at these, he had, Ben went through and did some projections.
Just decide to go through, what are you looking at?
Yeah, I was just wondering what type of revenue.
Greg, I have a comment that I'd like to make about this process, and that is, I brought this up last year, and I'll bring it up again. It upsets me that we're paying Ben Rager $25K a year to be our consultant, and he's not including everybody on the board when he responds to things. I think that is not a good thing. I think everybody on the board should be copied on any correspondence that he sends out. I mean, this has been under discussion with him, I guess, since May, and I just got an email about it this morning, and I think that's unsatisfactory.
I'll talk to them. I'll have him send them out as a group email.
Everybody should be on the same page.
I agree. I completely agree.
So, anyway, I'm not sure what the process is
That's
whenever
fine.
we go, if we decide to go further with this, that's where,
What kind of a time frame and stuff?
yeah, I'm not sure. I think it can take place effective July 1st, I think, but I'm not sure if there's a deadline. I don't remember.
The statute isn't effective until July 1st. The statute we're talking about is Indiana Code 6, 3.6, 6, 2.8. And immediately following the meeting, I'm going to send you a copy of the memorandum that I'm speaking from so that you'll all have the same information in front of you. I didn't want to send it ahead of the meeting, not knowing exactly where the discussion might go, and also because I wasn't sure everyone would have an opportunity to review it before the meeting. But you will all get this information. You can read the statute on your own. It's pretty straightforward, other than some language that says that it applies to counties that, among other things, pays 100% of the costs to provide those services. There's a definitional question of what the author means by 100% of the costs. That's something I'll be looking into, but haven't had an opportunity to do yet. Procedure requires an ordinance, of course, because all tax adoptions require an ordinance. The recommended procedure is that a draft copy of the ordinance be sent to the DLGF in advance of adoption. The language is permissive, but it's a good idea. It makes sure that everybody's on the same page. They have to respond within 30 days of receiving a request, and so timely provision of a proposed ordinance would get their part of the process going. At the same time, we can be working on our part of the process. That process includes, obviously, open discussion, preliminary consideration of the ordinance so that an ordinance draft can be sent to the DLGF, publication of notice at least 10 days prior to a public hearing. So you've got notice, you've got a public hearing. You also have to send copies of the notice of hearing to each of the taxing units in the county. Thankfully, I believe I already have a copy with all of their email addresses, because there's another circumstance in which we have to notify that same group annually. And so that's a fairly straightforward process. Council conducts a public hearing, making sure that hearing takes place at least 10 days after the notice has gone out. Once the public hearing has taken place, then you can reconvene in the regular meeting and take final action on adoption of the tax, whether that action is to adopt as presented, adopt at a different rate, or to, in that case, adopt at a lower rate, or to decline to adopt the tax. There are some steps to be taken after that, but the basic functions are laid out for you right there. In that same memorandum, I have set a proposed timeline and tasks, and so you'll be seeing that when you receive this, the earliest possible date that final action could be taken, assuming we start with discussion today that says, Marvin, please go forward with your research and we'll have this on the agenda again in July. The earliest date would be the meeting conducted August 22. After that, it would just be backed up a month if we weren't ready to take action that would lead us to an August 22 final action. Just as a point of reference, as long as it's adopted after August 31st and before November 1st of the current year, it would take effect January 1st of next year. Questions?
Take effect January 1 next year.
1.
January 1, okay.
Greg?
Is this going to be where cities and towns will get a portion of the income?
No.
Like
This is strictly a county tax for a county income tax for county provided services.
Okay.
The other thing I'd like to mention, right now the county's total local income tax rate, which includes certified shares and the various local income taxes already in place, is 1.95%, if I calculated correctly. The maximum that we can go is 2.5%. And so a maximum, maxing out on this tax, which Kelly is not suggesting be done. It sounds like maxing out on this tax would take us to 2.15.
Say it again.
Which part?
What is it now?
The current total rate is 1.95%.
Okay.
The maximum amount of EMS local income tax is 0.2%. So if adopted at its maximum rate, the total tax to county income taxpayers at that point would be 2.15%.
Okay, and the maximum we can do is
0.5%
2.5.
of the total various taxes. And that's your regular county income tax plus the other taxes that are of need in place.
So I guess there was about 3 different options presented here, and it's different.
Yeah, he did, the one that he did, the first, I think, broke it down to where it would just be, basically we would be coming out about even. Maybe have a little bit of an excess, to keep the ambulance so that it wouldn't, so we wouldn't be in the red with them again. And then the one that, the maximum ended up where we could projected income for 2023 would be in excess of 700,000.
Kelly, by chance, do you have an extra copy of that with you?
You can have these if you want.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I've got it at home on my computer.
Because the way I keep track of my records, I like to have copies of
Okay.
these kinds of things attached to my minutes.
There's one, and I think that's the newest one that was at the maximum.
Okay.
And this might have been at the minimum, no, first one I gave you, I'm not sure.
I'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
sorry.
So Marvin, you said this would be, or somebody said it was gonna be for 25 years, so I guess my question would be, if we would adopt this at a lower rate, then we have to go through this whole process again to raise it?
I didn't study the process of increasing closely, but I believe that would be the case, yes. Discussion, decision to move forward, public hearing, final action.
I guess in my thought, then I wouldn't want to do all that and just be breaking even. I would want us to at least get some surplus. So
Right.
whatever we decide that would be. But when we break it even, we'll just be back here doing the same thing again next year.
Right. Part of what I thought would be, like I mentioned, is, I don't know if we want to go the whole 2/10, but if we didn't, if we went somewhere in between. But my hope was that if we could do this, that later on, then we could get it to where, like I said, we could pay our EMS workers more. And then that portion that we wouldn't be taking out of public safety lit to help offset the ambulance, then maybe we could look at working with our jailers and our sheriff's department on paying them more, so we're there again not being a training county, we're being a retaining county of employees, so.
I just had time to skim this, but what I read, if I read it correctly, we can only do it in 0.1 increments.
0.01, yes.
So it either has to be a 0.05, a tenth, or 2.
No, it can be a tax rate of, let me find my statute. The maximum tax rate is 0.2, but it can be increased 1/100% at a time. And so you've actually got, 20 increments there to work with in terms of increasing from the absolute lowest to the absolute highest. Yes, sir.
I just want to make everybody aware and remind everybody that for the last 3 years, the commissioners have bought the replacement ambulances out of our QCAP budget. So keep that in mind with the prices vehicles are doing, that if there comes a time that we can't do that out of our QCAP budget, that would be good to have this to fall back on.
To help offset those costs.
Yes.
Yes.
Because, the vehicle prices are just going through the roof now, so if you can, I mean, our last year, we bought ambulances for $155,000 and they're $220 this year. So that kind of, just kind of keep that in mind. That's kind of.
Well, I guess my thought would be, I think we definitely need to do it. And my thought on the other part of that would be that we need to do it through the maximum we can, because I think as far as the public's concerned, you know, grinding away at them every year or two is gonna cause more discontent than if they just have to listen to it all the time. But that's my thought. I mean, it's gonna be about that much money.
That's kind of the way I feel, and I know, Brent had called earlier and said he wasn't gonna be at the meeting, but I know he made the remark that when he was on the council previously, that the ambulance service was always something that we were having to try to find extra funds for, so.
Any other discussion or anything?
So do we need to make like a motion for you to go ahead and look into things for us, or how do we need to do that?
I don't think a motion is necessary, but I would like to know that there is a consensus that you'll want this on the July agenda, and that in preparing toward the July agenda, you'll want me to prepare a preliminary draft ordinance. Now, that ordinance cannot be adopted in July, but it's an ordinance that then you can move to have me forward to the DLGF for preliminary approval. I'm seeing a lot of head nodding. Is that a consensus?
I'm in consensus with it. I think both Ron and Brent are, but.
Greg?
I'm going to say this. I am not sold yet. I'm not there yet. So, but that's me. I'm one of 7. So, 5 here tonight. So, that's my point of view. I mean, I'm not saying no, but I'm saying that it's gonna take some sales to get me there.
So I guess, can you share with us what your questions or your apprehension is?
Yeah, I don't like taxes.
Well, I don't think any of us do, but we don't want to run in the hole all the time either, so.
I guess what we would do with these, I mean, everything is, well, we all know this, everything's going up. Nothing's coming back down. So it's only going to get worse before it gets better, it looks like to me right now. But, you know, we have liabilities there. If we can't pay them, we got to scramble and turf from somebody or this or that. You know, that doesn't really work.
Like I say, there's nothing personal or anything. It's
No,
all
no,
just
no,
all opinion.
I'm just, you know, I don't like taxes either, by the way. But I do know we have to pay them to keep the county running, the ambulances running. They're very, very necessary. I'm glad they're around. Put it that way. And so they're necessary. We can say, okay, let's go borrow money from the bank, but that's not a good idea. I mean, I don't think if we can get some money, get it where it's gonna maybe have a little bit extra, as you said. And we would have to maybe go and look next year again if we get something here that's positive for everybody. But that's me, okay? I would back it, okay, we'll put it that way.
I think one thing we want to remember too is that we've had a lot of federal dollars come in the last 2 years to pay a lot of things that we really needed to have done, and that's probably not going to happen in the future. So if we can get something going to make the EMS and ambulance whole, I think we have to do that.
Joe?
Marvin wants to say something.
No, actually, I'd prefer you speak. You haven't had an opportunity, and then I'll close up.
Well, I got some reservation about tax also. Number one, with our aging population we have here, our fixed incomes and so forth, and $5, who knows how much more gas and diesel fuel cost of living and utilities and food and so forth. I've got some, I don't know if there's other avenues, I'm talking with Dan or other people here, Matt, commissioners, whether there's other avenues we can go, or we can look into it a little deeper with, with the courthouse. It'll be paid off here sometime in the next couple of years or 3.
25, isn't it?
Yeah. We got 5 years left.
5, and then with the end of tax and so forth, it's gonna be
7.
freed up here in the next year and a half or 2 years, Marvin.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there needs to be maybe a little more research done through our financial people and everybody else, including on the council and the county here, the commissioners. So I'd be a little reluctant to jump into right now without having some homework done to look at the avenues that we do have, if there is.
Okay. I just want to summarize, if that's okay. I'm obviously hearing misgivings, but I'm also hearing within even some of the misgivings that further study and further research is appropriate. To me, that is a signal to move forward with drafting, which doesn't cost this body anything at all since you've already paid for it. Based on that, I would propose to go ahead and get a draft ready and anticipate further discussion in July. Is that a fair summary?
That would be my recommendation. That way we can, everybody can think on it, and if you could keep us posted on it.
Absolutely.
And we'll have hopefully full house or something at the next meeting.
All right. Everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
Consider it done.
All right. Next on the agenda, County Attorney, do you have anything, sir?
I've presented everything I have.
Anything to come from the board?
We need to do the appointment.
Yes.
For the Visitor and Tourism Board. And so I'm not exactly sure what we need to do, but Patty Danner has agreed to replace Richard Nichols on that, so.
It's just a simple appointment in the Marvin. I mean, it's.
Yep.
What's the name again?
Just
Patty Danner.
make a motion, take a vote.
D-A-N-N-E-R.
So I'll make a motion that we appoint Patty Danner to replace Richard Nichols on the Visitor and Tourism Board.
I have a motion by Kelly. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jerry.
Before you vote, Kelly, is this a motion to fill is Richard's term concluded or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's for a full
He's
term.
staying on.
He's been
and
staying on till we can find somebody to
Replacement.
replace him, yes.
Okay, so this will be to the conclusion of the next regular term.
I believe so.
That's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you. Sorry about the interruption.
That's okay.
Doug motion, second. Second. Jerry. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anything from the folks out there? Yes, sir.
Between the ambulance service and the hospital, we've applied for a healthcare challenge grant through the State Department of Health, and we've been awarded the grant. It's $300,000 over 30 months, with what the state says additional funding later to start the program. It will require a temporary full-time position that's totally reimbursed by the grant. Everything is paid for through the health department.
What would that position be?
It's a mobile integrated healthcare worker or community paramedic, so it's kind of twofold.
The liaison between.
They'll do follow-up appointments with people discharged from the hospital. The goal is to cut down on readmissions, which costs the hospital money.
Yeah, we'll buy that.
Frequent 911 callers, things like that. And that vehicle will also be outfitted just like mine, so there'll be another paramedic in the county for emergencies too. And all the equipment, all the manpower, everything's paid for by the grant. It won't cost the county. But I need permission to do it. It's a reimbursable grant, and I've talked to Matt, I shouldn't have the budget, but So it'll have to be paid for up front by the county, and then we submit the invoice to the health department.
So do we pay this $1,000 a month for the next 30 months, or do we have to cough it all up at once?
What I would recommend, depending upon exactly how it works, is to do a rainy day loan to a grant fund, and then when the reimbursement money comes back in, I can pay it back as long as it's by the end of the calendar year. I don't know how much you're supposed to get. Is it just as you spend it?
As we spend.
So we may be in the negative at the year's end. They don't usually get too mad about that.
So the salary was figured yearly for 2.5 years. Everything was, except for the equipment, was figured one time. So we would have to purchase the vehicle, the equipment, submit an invoice, and be reimbursed.
Now, when this grant's gone, where does the vehicle and stuff, does it stay?
With the ambulance service.
Okay.
However, the hope is that this program doesn't go away, because there are options for billing home visits like that to make it sustainable.
That's where I was going, is so at the end of this 30 months, if no more money comes in, this
We
person.
keep everything, and this person goes away.
Okay.
That's why I
We keep
said
the vehicles,
temporary,
okay.
full-time. I mean, I think that's the best.
Okay.
And according to the Department of Health, there'll be additional funding for the program later.
Or do we have to
I think it's
advertise for
proactive,
this?
I think it's great.
We have to advertise or what, anything for this, or what we need?
That would be premature. If it's a rainy day loan and if it's made for the full amount of the grant or 25% of the grant in order to cover startup costs or whatever you decide to do, it won't require advertising. Matt, will it require advertising for appropriation on a rainy day loan?
I think it would.
Okay.
Unless you include it in the, let me take a look at that. I don't know that we necessarily need that when we do a resolution or whatever it is.
That's what I'm wondering about historically as well, and I can't remember. That's a definite maybe.
Is there a
What's the
time frame on this?
timeline, I guess, on the grant?
Yeah, is there a time?
They want the program started August 1st. It runs for 30 months from August 1st.
So we got some time to,
Very
a little bit, yeah. I don't see a problem with this at all. I mean, just, all we have to do is just get the procedure stepped out, what we gotta do to get it done.
I've came up, actually Dr. Gamble and I've put together a job description to give to Marvin.
Thank you.
Let him look at it and see if we can let him put his final touches on it and start advertising to hire. They wouldn't start until August when the grant starts.
Let us know what we need to do. Like I said, I don't see an issue with it, at least from my point of view.
So that's billable insurance wise?
So the hospital already has the equipment to do telehealth, and part of this will be the paramedic will go to the home, set up the visit, reconcile their medicines, things like that, and then actually facilitate the visit with a provider, either a doctor, nurse practitioner.
That's gonna save everybody money and time.
That's the hope, yeah. So every time someone's readmitted to the hospital loses reimbursement.
That's helped out there. That's great.
Would the board be comfortable authorizing Matt to investigate the appropriation and to authorize him to advertise
If need
upon
be.
determining an appropriation is required such that final approval could be given at the July 25th meeting? I know that's not the way you normally do things, but under the circumstances to accelerate the grant program start.
No, I think sooner the better.
Yeah. Motion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jerry, second by Kelly. All in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Do you want that amount to be like a third of that or a quarter of that?
Whatever it takes.
Let's go 30%. Are you guys good with that? And we'll just do that, and then we'll shoot from there, see what we run into. Like I said, if we run in the red a little bit, then we'll fix it.
Yeah, the initial cost will be the highest,
Yeah, vehicles.
After that, it should be pretty repetitive.
All right.
I think that's a benefit to our people.
So how much are we thinking the vehicles will be?
It's 32,000 and some change.
Okay, so that would be enough then.
And then you have to outfit them, and the monitor's 27,000.
I just wanna make sure that 30%
Oh,
would be
yeah.
enough to do that.
Anything else, sir?
That's it for me.
That's a great program.
I think it's good.
Thanks, guys.
All right, especially if we get it for free.
Yeah.
Well, I can see the insurance coverage like
That's free, we'll pay damages for that.
Anything else to come before the board? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Jerry, do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Kelly. All in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, folks.